Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode. So inshallah, the plan is with these last 10 nights, we're going to try to put out as many episodes. I don't promise that we're going to be able to put out an episode every single night, but inshallah, even if it's just a little short reminder or something that's small that's beneficial, inshallah, that is the plan. So I'm going to be looking at the translation, probably what I'll be doing for like the last 10 nights. We're going to be taking a look at different translations from these small surah. So we're looking at Juz' Amma. So Juz' Amma is the last Juz' in the Quran. I think generally if anyone has any Quran memorized, it tends to be these small surah. And a lot of times we don't know what they're saying. And these are the surahs that we're reading in Salah. So one of the important things during Laylatul Qadr especially is reading Quran. Reading Quran is a very blessed thing throughout the whole month of Ramadan. Especially during these last 10 nights, because we know it's this month of Ramadan and it's during this month that Jibreel actually came. He revealed the Quran upon the Prophet, and even the last day or the last year before the Prophet ﷺ died, he came down twice. So he would come down every night, but he reviewed the Quran with the Prophet ﷺ twice. So it's important for us to understand what we're saying and what we're reading. So the first surah that we're going to look at is probably one of my favorite surahs. I have a lot of favorite surahs, but this is one of my favorite. And it's Surat al Duha. And they say that specifically this surah, it's really beneficial to read to someone or like to talk about it with someone who might have any anxiety or stress or like especially depression. Because this surah is, kind of just touches the heart. So basically, when we're going to go through these surahs, we're going to look at when the surah was revealed, the reason for the revelation, and then the translation and any kind of takeaways that we can take away from the surah. So we said we're looking at Surat al Duha, which is in Juz' Amma. And so this surah is a Makki surah. So generally all of the surahs in the Quran are broken up into two categories. They're either Makki or Madani. So Makki surahs are surahs that came down before the Prophet ﷺ made the hijrah to Medina, before the migration to Medina. And Madani surahs, as in like Medina, because he was in Medina, came in after the Prophet ﷺ had migrated to Medina. So Surat al Duha is a Makki surah. So it came down upon the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ while he was in Mecca. Generally, the Makki surahs tend to be shorter surahs. They're the ones that talk about heaven and hell. They talk about Jahannam. They're kind of like the scary ones to kind of get the munafiqeen, to kind of get the disbelievers to believe. Whereas the Madani surahs, those that came down after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had made migration, those kind of talk more about the legislations, the rules and the regulations and all of that stuff relating to Islam. Because now the Rasul ﷺ had an established group of people. He actually had a group of Muslimin, so he was able to reveal all of these ayat and actually set in the legislations and create and establish the religion of Islam. Okay, so let's take a look at the surah. So before we start reading the surah, just a simple etiquette, and I think if you guys have listened to any of our previous episodes, the ones that I've done with Adam, you see that when we start off reading the Quran, sometimes Adam says it out loud, sometimes he doesn't, but you're generally supposed to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So that's generally the etiquette that is supposed to be said before you start reading the Quran. And I know some people say, like, after they're done reading Quran, they say, like, when they're done, they say Sadaqallahu al-Alim. This is not authentically narrated in any hadith, so it's not something that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to do. So it's generally like something people recently started doing, so there's no authentic narration that supports people doing it. But just a little, disclaimer, since we are going to be looking, inshallah, at surahs every single night, that's the hope, that's the plan, inshallah, kind of just talking about the etiquette of Quran as well. So we're going to take a listen by Shaykh al-Afasi. He's a really nice reciter, so inshallah we're going to listen to him reciting Surat al Duha.
سوف يعطيك ربك فترضى
I think it's safe to say RIP to all my, what's it called? Oh my god, headphone hears. People are listening on headphones because beating was super loud. Sorry about that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, He is saying, let's take a look at the translation. I swear by the morning hours and the night when it covers with its darkness, your Lord has not left you or abandoned you, and He has not began to hate you. And the life of the hereafter, it is best for you than the first life. And in the future your Lord will give you. Then you will become happy. Did He not find you as an orphan, then put those in your responsibility to care for you, and found you misguided and guided you? Then He found you poor and enriched you with contentment. Then for the orphan, do not oppress him, and as for the beggar, do not repel him. And as for the blessings of your Lord, share and explain them. So, taking a look at the reason for revelation, so why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveal this surah? So, this surah was revealed, as we said, it's a Makki surah. So it was revealed upon the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ while he was in Mecca. So at the time, basically, there was a situation that happened, and it's explained in Surat al Kahf. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, don't say that you're going to do anything tomorrow without saying inshallah. So basically what happened is the Prophet ﷺ was getting asked questions about things related to Islam. So he was getting asked about like the soul, what is the soul? He was getting asked about like the Day of Judgment. So he was getting asked about a bunch of different things during this time period. And he said that he would answer them tomorrow. But he didn't say inshallah, that he would answer them tomorrow inshallah. So this was kind of meant to be a lesson kind of for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left him, some scholars say anywhere between 4 to 15 days with no revelation. So he hadn't gotten a single verse from Allah, Jibreel hadn't gone down, anything. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ began to feel sad, like why isn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like he understood there was a wisdom behind it, but it just generally made him feel sad. And what made it even worse is the kuffar of Quraysh, so the disbelievers of Quraysh, they were making fun of him. So they were saying, especially in specific, there's a woman, her name is Jamil. She was the wife of Abu Lahab, and Abu Lahab and his wife have a whole surah dedicated to them, which is Tabbat Yadan Abi Lahab wa Tab. And so she came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and she said, "Oh Muhammad, I feel as though your shaitan has left you. Maybe your Lord doesn't love you anymore." When she said shaitan, she meant Jibreel. And she's saying that basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't love you. So everyone was basically making fun of the Prophet, that he hadn't gotten any revelation. It was already a sticky situation for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, trying to get these people of Quraysh to believe in his message. So it was a tough time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this surah as a means of comfort for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And they say that he revealed it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it on the 16th day. So the Rasul ﷺ had gone 16 days with no revelation, no conversation, I guess you could say, between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this surah is really broken up into 3 different parts. So the first part is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He swears. So He swears by the morning, He swears by the night. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by something, that means it is very important. And just a general fa'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, He swears, for example, by the morning, the night. It is permissible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to swear by anything because He created it. He is the creator. But we are only allowed to swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can't say I swear by my mom's life or stuff like that. We can't say that. Even some people say bisharafak or like bi'izzatak, like that. You're swearing by someone's honor. You're not allowed to do that. So it's only wallah, like tallah, like all of that stuff. You can only swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, your Lord has not left you or abandoned you, kind of just showing and consoling the Prophet. But the first part is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam of the true reason why he's here. So He says, the life of the hereafter is best for you than this first life. So your ultimate goal is still the hereafter. So don't get caught up in this world. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says something very interesting when He says, and in the future your Lord will give. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't specifically say what He is going to give the Prophet. And after that He follows that verse saying, then you will become happy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Rasul to trust kind of like to trust that your Lord will give you, and it will be something that will truly make you happy. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the second part, He reminds the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of the blessings that He gave him, and kind of to further emphasize, how can someone who's given you all of these blessings hate you or abandon you? He said, did He not find you as an orphan, then put those in your responsibility to care for you? We know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his father died before he was even born, and his mother died when he was around 6 years old, and he was put into the care of his uncle Abu Talib, who then passed away. So from the beginning of his life, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an orphan, but people still cared for him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and found you misguided and guided you. In the sense that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was never misguided. He was always a person of great dignity and honor, but in the sense that he never had this revelation. That was the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. Like, you never had revelation, you never had this Quran and this Sunnah. And then He found you poor and He enriched you with contentment. So we know that generally the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't live a life of lavishness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the option to live a life like other prophets with a lot of money and wealth, or to live a more humble life, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose a humble life. But when it says that He enriched you with contentment, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that richness is the richness of the heart. So in the sense, when your heart is filled with the ibadah and it's filled with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is contentment. So if you have a content heart, then you're living a life that's even better than kings. Because generally, if you don't have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have nothing. But if you have Allah, you have everything. So that's the second part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just reminding the Prophet of the blessings that He has given him. Then the third part is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam 3 advices. He says, then for the orphan, don't oppress him. And as for the beggar, don't repel them. And as for the blessings of your Lord, share and explain them. So the first advice is basically to take care of the orphans, not to steal their monies, not to dishonor them, to kind of make sure the orphans are taken care of. The second thing is for the beggar, so don't repel them. So if we see people who we can help, people who are in need, to help out our fellow brothers in Islam and sisters in Islam, so to kind of just be helpful for those that are around us. And the third part is, as for the blessings of your Lord, share and explain them, in the sense that we should share and speak about the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So this is a form of gratitude. So for example, we always talk about, oh my God, look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us our eyesight, and the blessing that comes from eyesight, or the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us. So kind of just talking and remembering of the various blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is a form of gratitude and is a form of blessing. And so this is honestly one of my favorite surahs, because it always kind of just brings me comfort whenever I read it. And subhanAllah, that was the reason why essentially it was revealed to the Prophet. But when you look at the 3 reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam why, it's kind of like evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't abandoned him. He said, did He not find you as an orphan, then put those in your responsibility to care for you, and found you misguided and guided, and He found you poor and He enriched you. Sometimes when I read the surah, I personalize this. So I heard one time this one scholar that was explaining that in the Deen of Islam, an orphan means 2 things. So an orphan can mean a person who has no father or mother, but also they say that an orphan is a person who has no knowledge. So when you have no Islamic knowledge, like even nothing, like you know nothing about your deen, you're considered an orphan, because you're lacking so much in your life. So subhanAllah, when I think about this, it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we were all orphans. We all were not, like, we had no information about the deen. We knew nothing when we were young. We were so ignorant. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, is continuously guiding us. Even just simple things that we know, how to salli, how to read Surat al-Fatiha. This is how I personalize it. It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we were orphans. We were lacking such great knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us by allowing us and giving us opportunities to learn of our deen. And the second one is, and He found you misguided and guided. And this is amazing, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala found you when you were in a state of misguidance, and He chose to guide you. And that is probably one of the most powerful verses for me specifically, because this just shows me, for me specifically, it shows me the power and the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for us, that He turns to us when we are turned away from Him, and He brings us back to Him. and He found you poor and enriched you, kind of just open-ended, that generally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us so much rizq and so much blessing, most of which we don't deserve, and most of which sadly sometimes we use in a way that is not appropriate. So it's just that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, surah basically just shows you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly showering us and blessing us, and to kind of like the three advices that He gives the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to end it off by giving back, by not oppressing those around us, and by sharing and having gratitude of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. But that is a short translation of Surat al Duha, one of my favorite surahs in the Quran, and inshallah we'll keep doing this every single night, taking a look at another surah. But I hope that was beneficial, and inshallah we're able to better connect on the surah. So next time you're reading it in salah, take a moment when you're reading every single surah and take a second to pause after and think, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying when He's talking about the surah? And kind of understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran, it's meant for us to read and understand and to reflect upon it, not just to read it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we need to have tadabbur. We need to understand and trying to like really implement and translate these verses into our lives. And inshallah, we looked at that today, how we can translate this surah specifically into our lives as well. Inshallah, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Salam.